There we go. The receiver was blinking at me double. I guess my mic wasn't turned on. So for those that are watching the beginning of the replay, I have no mic the first minute. And I don't have my ring light either. So the lighting makes me look a little red from the lamp that's behind me without the ring light. I'm not really red, it's just the color. You can hear me. Yay! Yeah, thanks for those who came in to watch the coyote chase, but nothing happened. And I'm going to let a few people come in, and we're going to talk about Nancy Guthrie missing day number 81. That's so hard for me to say, that day 81. And I'm checking the chat in the background just to make sure that I'm seeing the same messages on the phone as I am on the computer desktop or the desktop computer. So far, we're 4 for 4. Two Kathys, Kathy Mowry and Kathy X50. Hey, 16 people. This is April Davis PI. I'm a licensed PI in Los Angeles, California. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and it is April 22nd, 2026. And sadly, this is day 81 on the Nancy Guthrie case. Hey, if you guys are not subscribed to me, please subscribe, hit that bell notification. Make sure you smash that like button. And if you want to just like double tap for the red hearts or however you guys do that, feel free to do it because it boosts the algorithm. And, I just got monetized last month and I got to get those views up. Nobody's watching the long form content. So, when you have a free moment, go check out some of the playlists and just hit play all and listen away. This is getting to that point where the case is cooling down and we're still waiting for not new DNA, but a new DNA lab to figure out what the Florida lab couldn't find out. So we're at a very cooling down point in this case. And I've been hearing a lot of people the past week or so rag on Savannah because she's not making any press conferences or she's not on the news every night, even though she would have the capability of doing so working for NBC. She could go live every 10 minutes if she wanted to. But she's just returned to her job, and they're not allowed to speak about the case on the show when, she's doing her job. And people are like, "Hey, like, has she forgotten about her mom?" And no, she hasn't. I'm doing okay. I'm alive, still here. I'm here to see my friends here. But people are ragging on her, saying, she should be shouting it off the highest mountain, and she should be on the news every day, begging for her mother's return. But you got to realize the police are involved in this. The FBI, they're now leading the investigation. NBC provides private security for all of their newscasters. Plus, if she's smart, she has her own private security plus PIs. That's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. And they know more about this than any of us here that are watching know about this case. I'm a detective, but I'm not a detective on this case. And they're telling her to keep her mouth shut. That's my personal opinion. It's not that she doesn't want to come forward. It's not that she didn't want to offer that $1 million reward right away. She's doing what she is being told. And remember, if this was not a planned unaliving and this really was a planned kidnapping, as jacked up as it is, the people who planned this, they failed. It failed miserably because they didn't get their Bitcoin. They haven't made a penny. In fact, they probably had all kinds of costs involved in this operation. So if they're smug and they're arrogant, hey, Kathy Mowry, thank you so much. Let me heart that on the screen so I don't have to touch the phone, make it shake until I get I'm looking for a new small tripod. But, you know, they're she's got all these chefs in the kitchen. They're telling her what to do. But remember, if they are kidnappers, it wasn't just an abduction for unaliving, but it was a kidnapping, although I have a very hard time believing that. They failed because they didn't get their Bitcoin. And you don't know if they have planned or plans to strike again. I mean, they could go after Annie. They could go after Savannah. They could go after Savannah's husband. They could go after Savannah's children. Heck, they could even go after Cameron and his kids. You don't know. Have I tried Amazon? I'm on Amazon. That's where my wish list is. Go to the homepage and click the links in the description of the channel. What? What is this? SGA. Hello. No knuckleheads tonight, okay? No religion, no politics, no knuckleheads. If you're under 18, you got to go find another channel to watch. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. They have a lot at risk because we still don't know the motive. We don't know why this was done. Was this done for revenge? Was this done for money? Was this done as a way to get Savannah? Or was this somebody close to them, like 90% of unalivings and kidnappings are? Someone within the family, or someone that worked there, or friends or neighbors, somebody very close within the church. That's a 90% chance when it comes to a regular person. But Nancy Guthrie was not a regular average person. She was the mother of a celebrity who makes millions of dollars, whose husband, her son-in-law, is allegedly a Clinton cleaner. Okay. You got Savannah involved in, the Epstein files and interviewing victims. And that is my Wi-Fi mic. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of possibilities. Remember, I'm a Hollywood PI. Celebrities, they have a bullseye on their back. I can't state that enough. They have a giant bullseye on their backs. And if somebody is targeting Savannah and they weren't successful because they didn't plan this thing right and they didn't take her meds with them and she passed within, 24 to 48 hours, which she probably did, uh, they didn't get their ransom. They were unsuccessful. Now, if I were in their shoes, and as a detective, whenever I work cases, I always try to put myself in the shoes of the perpetrators or the stalkers or the harassers or the criminal. I always put my mind into their mind. And if I were them, I would get the heck out of Dodge. And I got a suspect on my list that I think is not the mastermind, but one of the players. And he got the heck out of Dodge maybe as soon as February the 2nd. Yes, I am a Hollywood PI. So, but these guys, they could be very smug and very arrogant, like, mission successful, except we didn't get the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I hate to put it that way, but they didn't get their pot of gold. So they could go after somebody else. They could go after other family members. You don't know, like, who's involved in this and why this happened, but it did happen. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It wasn't a burglary gone wrong. It wasn't some burglars from, Brazil. Burglars attack, they strike during the daytime, 84, 85%, maybe higher than that. They don't break into houses at, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning and go after 84-year-old women. Even kidnappers don't go after 84-year-old women that are partially immobile. They targeted her for a reason. And if it was not an intended, let's take her out of the house, let's unalive her, and let's make it look like a kidnapping. If it wasn't that, and it really was a legit kidnapping for ransom, they didn't get the money. This case is still open. We don't know who's involved, how many are involved, who's the mastermind, what's the original plan. There's a reason for this, and there was supposed to be a reward for this. Nobody got anything. She has not been found, David Chester Smith. Not at all. Nobody has a clue. And now the sheriff, he's fighting for his job. He and the FBI, they're not on the same page. It's taken almost 12 weeks for the FBI to get a hold of that DNA evidence that went to the lab, the private lab in Florida, and now the FBI has it. Supposedly, they're forwarding it to the lab in San Francisco that helped solve the Gilgo Beach case. And that guy's already now come forward and admitted to 8 unalivings. But they are specialists in looking at hair that is rootless hair. And that's where we're at now. It appears that that's where the DNA has either been sent, the DNA, well, not the DNA itself, but the evidence samples. It's either on its way there or it's already there. David Chester, do you think the lady is already deceased? Sadly, yes. Sadly, yes. Hey, you're in England. I just saw that. Welcome. I've been to England. I was a lot younger than I am now. In fact, I was just a child. But yeah, in the mid 70s, I was running through the streets of England. I've actually been to Buckingham Palace. So welcome in, David. We have people from all over the world coming in now on this. If you guys like the video, please smash that like button. I hope you're subscribed. I'm getting closer and closer. Let me see, how much do I have now? That says 2.59. So that's, oh, wow. I'm like at 2590 something. I'm only a few subs away from 2600. Mm, yeah, sadly, I do think she's deceased. And I think she wasn't deceased when she left the house based on the evidence from the pacemaker, but she probably was deceased within 24 to 48 hours. I just came on a few minutes ago, like 12 minutes ago. I was on earlier doing a little coyote hunt. I think next time I do a coyote chase, I'll just, sit out there by myself and I'll film it. And then if I get something, I'll put it into a long form video or a short or something. Because, I tried and no coyotes showed up today. Hi, April. So glad to see you. Some crazy streamers on tonight. Hi, Barbara. Yeah, I watched one earlier today for a few minutes, and it was some guy that was local to Arizona. His name is Jim, but I don't remember the channel name. But he was out in the desert looking at an old abandoned train car or something. We're not here to play games, Mama. There we go. I'm my own mod tonight. I don't know Hamilton. Oh, Papa, we can't talk about that tonight. We can't talk about the T word. Oops. Let me try that again. You have to bump the screen every time. Okay, yeah, no religion or politics, folks. So let's talk about Savannah. Let's talk about Nancy. Let's talk about the DNA. Let's talk about Sheriff Nanos and the FBI. And I can tell you about the Today Show. They thought it was going to be a ratings blockbuster on April the 6th. Didn't happen. They only increased their audience by 2 to 6%, depending on their demographics. Younger people only increased by 2%. Elderly people, like, 65 and older, they had a 6% increase in viewership. Kind of shocking. I thought that it would be a rating smash, but apparently it's not. They're acting like, Savannah's not a big deal anymore. So, she's going through a lot. I feel bad for her. I would love to help her if she were local, I would love to be able to help her. If she wants to come out and meet me and lay down everything that she knows about this case, I'll be happy to consult with her, but I really feel for her and I feel for her family. I still have a question mark in my mind regarding the rest of the family, but but everybody here is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And let me adjust the chat because I'm seeing messages behind me that are not in front of me. Oh, Jamie, you have no idea. I lay awake in bed thinking about it. What is the term meaning an inside job? It means it's from somebody on the inside, somebody close to you. Did the family advance any Any what? To the kidnappers. I know they didn't pay the Bitcoin. There was a small deposit, possibly on February the 11th. There was a small deposit. No religions. Your local pastor. We don't have to take you out again. You're welcome to come in, but no religion or politics. Hi, Kevin Garrett. Welcome in. Blue Dragon Kush says, never will know. Most people know Savannah is a professional and she would be business as usual on her show. Absolutely. And she's doing a very good job. I'm just so busy being a mod tonight, I can't even talk. The thrills, the pros and the cons of YouTube monetization. Oh, some of these things I wish I had been writing it all down. I could do a video on it. I could write a book on or make a whole long form content video on all the things that happen after monetization. Some of the silly things that are said. Yeah, but I guess people at NBC are kind of like, "Ooh, we didn't get the big ratings," and there's tension between Hoda and Savannah. I thought Hoda retired in December, and then all this broke, and then she had to come back. Well, we can't talk about that here, or we would get the channel demonetized, Warrior. Yeah, there's certain subjects here with the YouTube where it's a big no-no. It is all about money, and guess what? They didn't get their money. Even if it was the family, and they thought, "Oh, well, we'll get her house and we'll get all of her money." I mean, I don't know how her bank accounts are set up. Now, if family members were listed on her personal banking accounts, then yeah, they would have access to her money. But, she's retired. She's an old lady with medical costs on Medicare. Her money is tied up in that house. And right now, nobody's going to be able to touch that house. Nobody can do anything. Remember the guy we talked about? Remember that I did I did a live video and I did a long form content on the Martin family. They had a son, a 28-year-old son. He was 28 at the time that the whole family disappeared. And it took 7 years of court dates and probate before that 28-year-old son was allowed to touch that house. Oh boy. Smart people would have any of her money, assets in a trust with set withdrawals. I think she did have a trust, but I'm not sure on that. I have not done a title search on the house. That would be sad, though, if she has a trust and she has a trustee who can now access the finances. Okay, Jamie, I just added you for tonight. Don't block anybody. Just take people out for 24 hours if you need to, but thank you. I've added it. If you type something in the chat now, you'll probably see that. I just added it on my screen. If you type something, it should go through. There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you for the offer. I appreciate it. Oh, hey, Vicky. Haven't seen you in a while. She says hello from Alabama, and how are you doing today? I'm surviving. 15 people in here, only 7 thumbs up. Can we hit that thumbs up button? Can we at least get it up to 10? Yeah, I really appreciate you, Jamie. Yeah, I haven't seen you. Is everything okay, Vicky? Tonight I'm drinking one of these, a Diet Stewart's root beer, a special treat. Somebody sent me a birthday Amazon card, a friend of mine who moved to Florida. She sent me a $25 Amazon gift card, and I treated myself. I have this on my YouTube Amazon wish list. It's still available for purchase, but I purchased one myself with my friend Carol's gift card. So thank you, Carol, if you're watching. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, so what do you think about this? That people are ragging on Savannah, and NBC is disappointed that they didn't get a big ratings boost over this. I've been busy scheduling my surgery, vascular surgery. Oh, okay. Now I remember. Yeah, I've been handling medical stuff all year. A second heart surgery, a kidney surgery, 2 infections, and now 2 trips to the dentist. And that tooth still doesn't feel right. It's still going to take a while for the nerves to calm down after all the work that's been done, but hopefully within the next 2 to 4 weeks it'll feel normal, because if it doesn't, I'll be looking at a very expensive procedure. Oh, it's May 19th? Well, hang in there until then. Hopefully you'll be feeling better. Hi, Wild Water. Where are you coming in from? Oh, my game has already started. Well, I've got it on in the background. Yeah, like I hate to come on the air and just go on and on and on about the same stuff over and over and over again, but I don't think this case is cold yet. It's definitely a lot cooler. I think the mistakes that were made in the beginning by Sheriff Nanos really affected the case and the evidence. There was a lot of things that should have been taken as evidence for, DNA sampling, like the frame to the Nest doorbell cam and the front doormat. Actually, it was given to me from a woman in the Hollywood Hills that gifted it to me on one of my neighborhood apps. And I've done a lot of work for Disney, but I did not get the hat from Disney. And I want to keep going on these because I want to keep this case relevant. I want this case to stay relevant. And, I'm not one of the people that's upset with Savannah for not, going on live television every night begging for the return of her mother. I'm sure she's being guided by law enforcement and private security. We don't know at this moment if there's other threats. What if there's other threats that are going on right now with other members of the family? We don't know this. She's got to be very, very careful. Everything has to be scripted before she can go on the air. So I don't fault Savannah at all. And I'm one of her biggest supporters. Now, who I do fault for some of this, maybe not all of this, is Chris Nanos. Big low-level screw-ups in the beginning. Exactly, Jay. It could be a threat to her. It very easily could be a threat to her. Because when I heard about this Sunday night, the 1st, that Savannah Guthrie's 84-year-old mother had disappeared from her Tucson home, I thought, oh my God, someone took that woman because of Savannah Guthrie. And I didn't even know who she was until Sunday, February 1st. Jamie James says she's most likely in heaven. I think so. I understand people feeling Savannah has the means to put up commercials and ads in paper. Nothing is a way to keep her mom relevant. I am not mad. Just don't get it. Yeah. There are security issues behind this as to why this is not happening. as far as Savannah making more public statements. You almost have to get it in the beginning. Yeah, the longer it goes, the first 24 to 48 are the most important in something like this. And, I'm still not convinced that this is an actual kidnapping for ransom because we have all these wacky ransom notes. They weren't left at the house. They weren't sent to the family. They were to news agencies and TMZ. Um, why would kidnappers be in a house for 41 minutes? What were they looking for? If this was a kidnapping, you take the target and you make sure that she stays safe. You conduct business and you get your money, you let her go, and it's done. And you ride like the wind. Yes, hence the show 48 Hours. Exactly. Kathy, I think you're right. The sheriff ruined it. But in, cases of non-celebrities or relatives of celebrities, you're looking at a 90% chance that it's somebody close to them that committed the act. And they could have done it as an unaliving, and the kidnapping story is like a big red herring. I'd sure like to know the finances of everybody. I say that over and over and over again. There needs to be a forensic accountant at the FBI looking at everybody's checkbook, everybody's mortgage, everybody's credit report. I sure hope they're asking about that second mortgage that Nancy took out in 2017. Was anybody asking her for money? Was she contributing to somebody every month and then decided not to do it anymore? Those are the very tough questions to ask. Let's look at everybody's finances. I'm sure Savannah's bank account is plentiful. But I do, still think that everybody involved in this case is a suspect, a potential suspect. Bet it was for the son. Her son or her son-in-law? Oh, great, Vicky. She says, I'm going to stay in touch with you and I'm glad to hear from you. Hi, Panda. Somebody, in my humble opinion, somebody could be in the pockets of the sheriff department. Yes. You cannot get any fingerprints since the victim has double set of gloves. The victim wasn't wearing gloves. Well, I don't know what she was wearing other than we heard she had no shoes and she was in her pajamas. Now, the guy at the door, front porch guy, he may have had a double set of gloves. Jay says the son-in-law. If he goes down, the daughter goes down. Absolutely. If Tomato's involved, so is Annie. But that's if. We're not naming them suspects here. We're not calling them guilty. If you guys want to, if you haven't already seen it, go watch my suspect video on this case. Just go to the video tab. It's a long form content video. Check it out. Lori, did you ever see the names on the list that was given to the gun shop owners in Scottsdale? No, I haven't. There was a lot of Iranian last names, and they all came back to a lady who used Nancy's address at one time. Okay, I heard about there was a woman that used to use her address because she used to rent out the the guest house in the back. I had not heard this before about the Persian last names, but for reasons I won't go into, I'm not surprised. Oops. Oh, you meant the guy in the video with the double gloves. Yeah, but he may not have had the gloves on the whole time. I mean, those were so bulky, they look like boxing gloves. How could you even pick something up? You know? Lori says, I will email you tonight something. Thank you so much, Lori M. I would be very interested to see that list if that's what you're talking about. I wish I could talk to you guys. If this case is solved, it's going to, even if somebody is arrested, it doesn't mean that it's solved. But I would love to be able in the future to be able to come on the air and talk to you more specifically about my calls to the FBI and why I have, in my mind, I have a person of interest as one of the worker bees, not the queen bee, but one of the worker bees. I have a person of interest. And there's a reason for it. Right. This is not getting political, but when we started getting tough on Iran, that is strange about so many guns purchased and registered at Nancy's address. Wow. There's just something that I know about a business that's in the city of Tucson. And although to the outsiders, like the people of Tucson, it looks like a legit business, and it is open for business where people can walk in and conduct business there. A lot of times, most businesses are legit, but because I'm a detective, I know that, especially like in bigger cities like LA and New York, cities that are close to the Mexican border, some businesses are not what they appear to be. They're actually fronts because these businesses can be running weapons, they can be running, um, I can't say it here because it's one of the things we can't talk about, but it starts with the letter D. Um, Businesses can be running weapons, they can be running the letter D uh, out of Mexico into the United States. And in order to launder the money, they will have businesses to launder some of those funds. And sometimes these businesses are owned by people that are connected with organized crime. And it doesn't have to be local organized crime, it can be organized crime that's from another country. And, she was the 84-year-old mother of a celebrity who makes a lot of money. And she did rent out her guest house for many years, but I've heard that she had not rented it out lately, like for the past several years. Now, how much is several? I don't know. But there were a lot of tenants over the years that were fully aware of her status and who she was related to. Jamie James says we have a lot of front businesses like that here in Arizona. Of course. We have a lot of businesses like that here in Southern California. We're not very far from Mexico. Tucson is even closer to Mexico. I would sure hope so, Barbara. She says, how many people work for Nancy? Have they been questioned? Dawn says, hello, April. Been missing so much. Life's been happening this few weeks. I think I'm back. Fingers crossed. Okay, well, you can catch up on the live tab or even go watch some of the long form content. I think I've only done 3 long form content since I got monetized. I just haven't had the time and I'm not getting the numbers on those for some reason. Until I figure that out, I have not yet cracked the YouTube algorithm. Jay, Kathy, many fans unfortunately can't afford memberships such as myself on disability. Yeah, don't worry about it. Kathy says paper companies. Sometimes businesses have back doors. Oh, could you do a members only show? You know what? I don't have enough members, and I handed out a lot of them. I didn't see the comment earlier. I'm like, huh, what did I miss? I don't have enough members to do a members only show. Hey, Trisha. Jamie has offered to mod for us tonight because we had no mods in here, and we had a ton of knuckleheads coming in, and I couldn't even like speak because I was so busy just going. So now we got two of you tonight. Thank you so much, Jamie and Trisha. But yeah, what the point I'm trying to make is that in big cities like LA or New York or Miami, or you have cities that are close to the Mexican border, such as Tucson, you're going to have business entities that are not 100% legit. I mean, they may have an actual business where, let's say it's a furniture store and they sell sofas. Well, maybe they're really selling sofas, but it's all a front for something else, especially if the ownership is connected to organized crime groups. And these businesses, they're fronts so that they can launder money because of things that are being sent across the border to or from. It can go both ways. There are a lot of tunnels that go in and out of Mexico, south of Tucson. Plus, you have the main crossing at Nogales. That's a major crossing. There are people in this life that are involved in bad things. There's a percentage of the population that's a criminal. There's a percentage of the population that are crazy. There's people that are aggressive. Heidi, thank you for coming in. There are a lot of fronts, and there can be many players. Remember what several of the ransoms said: be prepared to go international. And everybody just took that as, oh, she must be in Mexico. But that's maybe not what they meant. Like, be prepared to go national because that's where she is. That could have been, be prepared to go international to catch your perps. There are certain people, there's several people involved in, not necessarily this case, but there are several people in Tucson that are in that neighborhood or close to that neighborhood that have disappeared around the time that this has happened. You have one of the Bitcoin writers saying, hey, but it's not me. I'm just trying to help you because, hey, I haven't lived in the country for 5 years. Now I got somebody else who's also saying, hey, everybody, but it's not me because I haven't lived in Tucson since 2019. That's two people, possibly the same, saying it's not me because of this, this, and that. And I have information, but I don't want to call Crime Stoppers. I don't want to call Pima County Sheriff. I don't want to call the FBI tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Probably because they're more involved than they say they are. Remember, if this was a kidnapping, mission was unsuccessful. We have a dead victim, most likely, well, an unalive victim, most likely, and we have perpetrators, and I do say that plural, that have not received a penny. And they've probably spent money on this operation. Everything costs money. The plan failed if it was a kidnapping. So I am not surprised about what a commenter said earlier. I think it was Lori, about certain people being on the list. But they may be looking at people that were renters or people that were associated with renters in the guest house. But I have heard that she didn't have anybody in the guest house for years. Lori! Yes, ma'am, you did it right. I appreciate you, Lori. And I will be looking for that email tonight. And anybody that wants to email me, aprildavispi@gmail.com, anything you send to me by email will be kept private unless you send me an email that says, I want you to discuss this with your audience live. But even then, I might not. And if I don't answer you, it's not that I'm ignoring you and I didn't see the email. It's just that I'm getting so many. But I do appreciate some of the little tips that I've gotten. But my mind has gone a certain way with this case. It's either this or it's that, but I've got very specific suspects on both sides of the fence. That it was, somebody trying to get money out of Savannah, and I have my list of suspects, or somebody who's close to her who was trying to get money. But it could go either way. But it's not going to be a burglary or a robbery, some masked robbers that came in the middle of the night. Absolutely not. Robbers, burglars, they take things. They don't look for things that aren't missing, like maybe documents. In my humble opinion, I believe Savannah was threatened by her mom's demise. Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Lori. She says, I've just recently started watching YouTube and you are far my favorite, April. Well, you know what? I'm happy that all these views on the Nancy Guthrie case, as sad as it is to report this, I'm glad that those views were enough to get me monetized, but I still haven't figured out the YouTube algorithm yet because a YouTuber can only be successful if people are watching their videos. It's great to have these live chats, but I have to have the views in the videos and in the replays. If I don't get the views in the videos, it's not going to work, and I'm not going to be able to afford to keep doing this. Remember, I'm 5 years and 4 months into this. So I do have a check coming in May, the end of May. I hope. Should be coming. Um, or possibly someone with connections to both sides. Trisha, thank you for the kind words. So sweet, Lori. April is excellent. Oh, I missed that. Trisha, this case is so hinky. I am still stuck on she was whisked away for safety. You know that word hinky, that's a name that's used a lot in the private investigation business. I'm very impressed with that language, Trisha. Hinky. Whisked away for safety. I hadn't thought of that one, Trisha. That is going down a deep dark rabbit hole, but I could believe anything at this point. Okay, Don says, a while back when all this happened, I did some searching as the bed and breakfast was leased by the Evans, Dominic, and I believe it was sold either to them or someone else. I went on Zillow. What bed and breakfast? I know who Dominic Evans is. That's Tommaso's drummer, his bandmate, who apparently has a criminal record, from what I'm hearing, alleged criminal record, alleged felon, and it was sold either to them or someone else. What was sold and what bed and breakfast are we talking about? Thank you, Jamie. Trisha, the biggest hurdle I cannot get over is Trump was brought into it, and instead of saying they would turn every rock over to find her or the perp, he chose the words a solution. I'm a little sus of the T word because he didn't like Savannah. He doesn't like Savannah. Um, oh, I must have missed that. Thank you, Jamie. I didn't even see that message. It gave owners names. I don't know about a bed and breakfast. It was the rental. I'm sorry. Whose rental? You mean the guest house? The guest house is on Nancy's property. Are we talking about the guest house in Nancy's backyard near the pool? Oh, the one that the Sione sold for like 10 to a single woman. Oh, I didn't know about that. I know that they bought a house in March of 2025. That is why I said something about the Iranian names. Hmm. I don't know about a house that the Sione sold. In the city that starts with M. That's Marana? So you're saying Annie and Tommaso had a property in Marana and they sold it, and they sold it to Dominic Evans? Because I know Dominic Evans and his wife, who supposedly works at the same school that Tommaso's supposed to work at, but apparently hasn't been there this school year. They had a rental there. Okay. And they sold it to for $10? Hmm. To a single woman. That's your understanding. Huh. Okay. I didn't know that. I know that they last March, not March of this year, but March of 2025, they bought a very expensive home for someone who has a school teacher's salary. And then several people that are viewing my channel have come in during these lives saying that they have firsthand knowledge that Tommaso Sione wasn't even working this year. That has not been confirmed. Whoever is responsible is probably out of the country by now. Well, at least some of them could be. Jay, the man cannot keep a secret to save his life. I don't think it was a slip. Hmm. Thank you, Africa. When you sell a property for $10 sounds like a payoff for something, personal injury or debt. Usually it's just a transfer between family. Like that house at the end of the cul-de-sac, that was actually transferred for $10. That was actually sold. It wasn't transferred. It was sold between the Levys and their adult daughter. Steph and Faith. I've been following the Nancy Guthrie case ever since it started. Yeah, I've been following it since the night of February 1st. Hi, Prince. I love Walt Disney. I've done a lot of work for Disney. Don McWhorter. On Zillow of this house has the names of who it was sold to, and Dee's parents' name popped up and children listed as well. Well, I hear that they're very close. I'm just scrolling through the comments. That would make extradition impossible. I guess it would depend on where they're at. Don McWhorter says suspicious. Everything and everyone is suspicious in this case. Yep, Don, since Dee was a band member and it was sold for so little, sounded like maybe Dee hadn't been paid correctly for his part in the band. Interesting. I did not know that, Prince. I haven't heard anything about that. I just know I've worked a lot of TV shows for them and a lot of gigs. I know some of the Disney adult children live nearby, but I don't know them. Yeah, I don't even think I was alive in his lifetime. What band? Early Black. You mean Tommaso's band, Jay? I have felt that from day one, Barbara. I feel strongly about water. Nancy was taken around water, and I'm not a professional psychic. I'm not even an amateur psychic, but I do have a very good sixth sense just because I was born with it and it's helped me in my career immensely. Maybe just because I know how rough the desert is, and if somebody meant to hide her rather than just leave her somewhere, that water would make more sense than trying to, dig a hole in the middle of the desert. Oh, I didn't know that. Trisha says, "Did you know not far from Nancy's neighborhood they did some drainage work for water pipes?" Yeah, and I've also heard that that house up on the hill that they laid concrete either for a pool or the deck around the pool because that was the lady that has never lived in the house, but she got it from her parents for $10 and she lives I don't know if she lives in Tucson, but the parents live in Texas and apparently they're elderly, they're very wealthy, they're real estate investors, and before they, pass on, they're starting to hand out the assets to some of their heirs. That's a possibility, Barbara. Makes sense because Arizona is not known for our rivers. I have heard though that there are a lot of lakes in Arizona. There's a lot of people that own boats. It's usually pools here, Barbara. I kind of doubt that, Prince. He says, "Do we know about Nancy's character? She may be a terrible human being." I very much doubt that. I have some psychic ability. I used to read cards some years back. Oh, interesting, Barbara. Yeah, it's actually day 81. Yeah. So gonna go with she wasn't any better or worse than the rest of us. Never met her. I've always thought she was still close. Probably, Jay. Kathy says, "Well, in my humble opinion, the FBI has been less than stellar in a lot of different cases." That's very true. The death of a woman that was basically living off the grid, they finally found him in Florida after he went on the run. Yeah, not really a big proponent of the FBI. I mean, they are an elite law enforcement agency, but they also have a slew of problems. In my career as a private investigator here in Los Angeles, working on VIP cases, a lot of times we would come in when the LAPD and the FBI had no success because then they had to hire the PIs. They had to spend money to get things solved. Yep, Kathy, but the key word found, we don't have that with this case. Tricia says, "I'm not sure we ever will." And they are also federal, yes. And they weren't in here from day one because it wasn't known to be a possible kidnapping. That's why PIs were created. Yes, we're professional information gatherers. It's not like you see in television and the movies where we're out there doing scummy things, committing felonies, and following cheating spouses. Now, a PI can do that, but we have to have a license. We have to have insurance into the millions. It's a very high profession, and in the years that it took me to get my license and start my own business, I could have gone to medical school and law school. I could have done both in the time that I got my license and started a PI business. It would take too long to start digging in the middle of the night or the next day. Absolutely, especially if she passed unexpectedly. That's funny. Dawn says, "I think Nancy was probably just set in her ways and just what old ladies do. She seemed like a sweet lady until you probably pissed her off, but aren't we all?" Yeah, maybe somebody asked her for money and she stood up for herself and she said no. Maybe she put her foot down and said no. Maybe they asked her to move out of her house and to have go into assisted living, and she said no. Tricia says, "Yep, Barbara, and you need heavy equipment because the ground is so hard." Yes. So it would have been something that had already been dug for another purpose. Yes. Oh, you can always watch back, Kelly. Welcome in. Yeah, I've had 2 lives today, Kelly. Uh, Kathy Mallory says, "Old or young does not matter what we are when we get ticked." I think she probably did have some spice. She's a successful person. You don't get successful by having people walk all over you. Planned out or spur of the moment? Planned out. You mean the actual crime? The disappearance? It's definitely planned out. Oh, for weeks, maybe probably even months. Dawn. Hello, C. Kushner. Oh, don't worry about the other live. Next time I go coyote searching, I'm just going to be by myself and I'm just going to film it. And then if I get something, I'm usually filming a suspect, on a case, back in the day when the coyotes come right up along my door and I'm like, oh, no, I did not, Trisha. They're probably out right now because it gets dark pretty early in LA, even during daylight savings. I'm sure they're coming out now. I've heard that there's this Rose. Is it called Rose Lake? It's up in the mountains. It's not that far from Nancy's. How long have I been in or been on? 58 minutes. Oh, my game is already in the third inning. Oh, there you go. How long have I been on? Kathy Mallory. Thank you, sweetie. Boy, the super chats have been coming through tonight. And it says my goal has a minute and 37 seconds left. Oh, yeah, I bet. Hi, Chastity LeBlanc. Where are you coming in from, Chastity? Yeah, there's a lot to talk about tonight as far as nothing new, but I just was talking about Savannah and how this has affected her and her job. And people are ragging on her because she's not, doing a news conference every day. Oh, you're coming in from Japan. My friends from Japan. I have very close connections with Japan, Chastity. Oh, I assume you mean fed a mama and baby foxes outside my office door a few years ago. They were under the office storage building. How sweet, Jay. Trisha, not to be overly gross, but 80 days in, if she had been put in an open body of water, the gases would have caused bloating and the water would have caused separation. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's not going to be pretty no matter what has happened. You were here before. I do remember now. And no alcohol here. Let me just show you. I'm treating myself to a Diet Stewart's root beer. We will all be so happy to find out who this evil person is. Yes, and I think that there's more than one, but I think there's the queen bee here and then there's the worker bees. And we need one of the worker bees to come forward. And I'm, a Bitcoin guy. He's probably involved. Come forward, Bitcoin guy. You'll get a lesser sentence. It's not too late. Kelly thinks she's still buried in the desert or sand. Oh, I haven't had Stewart's orange cream. Do they make it in diet? I try not to have too many diets either because, the chemicals are probably just as dangerous as the sugar that's in the loaded stuff. Dawn, I feel sometimes they are getting close and then something else happens. It's gone on too long. Yes. But somebody needs to get caught or turn themselves in and roll over on the others. Cut a deal. It's never too late because if you don't come forward and you know something, you're going to get caught up in this, even if you're just guilty by association. You're going to be charged with a first degree felony just because of association. You're going to be considered a principal or an accessory. In the state of California, they call an accessory a principal to a crime. And you don't have to have done the deed, but if you are involved in any way, come forward now. These people have families. They have boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever. They have family members. Carbonation has been known to cause kidney failure. Ugh. I'll be sure to go easy on it. Barbara says, yes, for sure, I agree. There may be 3 or more worker bees. Absolutely. I don't even feel that it's 2. Because even if there was just 2 at the house, there's still the queen bee. Trisha, that she needs to get caught on film eating a chili cheese street hot dog in Italy or something. What? What did I miss? Kelly Ray says 40 plus years of carbonation here too. Very good, Kathy. I drink mainly filtered water through my refrigerator. Trisha, I have a question. T lived in Italy until 2006 and then moved here and a few months later was married to Annie. How did they meet? Was it arranged? I heard that they met in Italy, but I don't know if that's true. That someone needs to come forward and confess or she needs to be filmed eating a street dog. uh, yeah, somebody knows something. More than somebody knows something. Not just someone knows something. Somebody's plural knows things. And they need to come forward. Is it true that Annie met Tommaso in Italy? That's what I'm hearing. Hello, Nicholas. Oh, good for you, Kathy. I drink 2 or 3 Stanley hydration mugs a day. My last vacation was when I was 16 years old with my parents in California. Yeah, my whole adult life, I really haven't had a vacation. And it was actually a trip that was in preparation for me returning home at 18, which I did do. The only time I've ever had a day off is due to illness. Now, I have been to Vegas a few times, but I haven't been to Vegas in over 20 years. I was on a business trip to Phoenix, but I wasn't conducting investigations. I was there at a conference. I'm happy to be alive and be at home with my fur babies. I'm just checking the baseball score. Oh, 4th inning already. Oh my God. I'm very loyal to you guys and to Nancy, who I don't even know, to be missing my ball game. Yeah, remember the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of nights in a hospital bed, so I'm very happy to be here with my fur babies. Tricia says, I worked in the public. Being home is my best vacation. Absolutely. Oh, okay. I know you can't say anything, April, but kind of roundabout. What was your most grueling case as a PI? One of the most earliest cases I ever worked, it wasn't my first, but it was in the mid 80s. And a little boy said to his grandma, Grandma, Greg is sleeping in the pool. Yeah. And in more recent years, a Mormon woman who was found deceased in a bathtub. And that's all I can say. Yeah, it was awful. Especially the bathtub thing is haunting me very much still because one of my favorite singers from Ireland died or was found unalive in a bathtub in London. And then I knew of somebody in California that didn't die in a bathtub, but was found in a bathtub. Somebody who I knew. So the bathtub case, the Greg is sleeping in the pool case. I had a terrorist attack case at LAX. People died. Happened on July 4th. I've had cases where there's been triple homicides, quadruple homicides, and you have to go into the perpetrator's home. But there's not one in particular. Barbara, how do we know Tommaso was not at work for 1 year and for what reason? If that's true, a red flag. I recently heard this on my own channel. People saying, hey, didn't you know he hadn't worked the 25-26 school year? And I said, it's not like I can call up the school district and ask about his employment status. Because I thought when this case happened, like, wow, how's the dude going to go to work? Well, then I heard that, well, he hadn't worked all year. For someone who just bought a house a year ago, March, and this happened less than 11 months later, red flag, if it's true. But there's so much we don't know. Kelly says, I think I'm going to go back to bed. Well, I hope you recover. I need you to get a lot of rest, Kelly. Your health is more important. You can always watch us on the playback. Yes, Kelly, please get well. Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time in the bathtub, and I stopped doing that when I had the bathtub situation case. Now, one of the cases that bothers me the most, and I'm not personally working in it, but I was invited to the funeral. I should do a playlist on it. Let me do that later tonight. I'll do a playlist about the girl in the sewer. And I actually know the LAPD detective, not personally, but we have met um, by phone, the detective that's in charge of that case. And I was able to get a little information about that case while I was invited by her family to the girl's funeral, and it happened around the same time as um, the death of my friend. And that I'm not working on that case, but I know a lot about that case. In fact, I've seen a picture, which is one of the most horrid things I've ever seen in my life, of the body in the sewer case in LA. That's a tougher case than anything I've ever worked. And I've had plane crashes, helicopter crashes, homicides, unalivings by people have taken their own lives, double homicides, triple homicides. I think I've had even a quadruple. But yeah, I'll have to do a playlist. It's in the true crime playlist, but I'll have to do one that's just the girl in the sewer. I'd have to think of a more proper name. Yeah, the girl in the sewer case. It's not far from here. It's in the Hollywood Hills. And I was going to discuss it in detail with one of my besties. And that day that I was going to discuss it with her, she passed away. And I was still dealing with that when I had to go to, well, I didn't have to, but I was invited to go to the funeral of the girl in the sewer. And part of that is actually included in some of my videos. Everybody says that, Kathy, you should write a book on your job. I'd have to have a professional write it for me. PJMB products. Have you ever went hiking and seen? Oh boy. I think I've seen you before. Goodbye. Oh, CMA, you are a social worker. What kind of social worker? I'm old. I can get down and get out. I look like a beach well, and I don't need emergency personnel. Oh, Trisha. I have. And you know what? Not as much as a police officer, which I wanted to be, because PIs come in after the fact. Although a few times we have to come in like right after something happens. I had to go into the Sherman Oaks, the Grossman Burn Hospital, or the Grossman Burn Unit, which is at Sherman Oaks Hospital, in the middle of the night, and see a guy that had been injured on a set. It was an Australian movie, one of the, I don't know, I'd worked over probably 100 movies and television shows, but it was an insurance case, and a guy got electrocuted, and he didn't make it. And I had to go into the hospital in the middle of the night into the burn unit. And then he made a deathbed statement, and I had to go to a lawyer's office and get a copy of the tape, and then come home and sit there and watch it with my boyfriend who lived with me at the time. We watched it together because we could barely hear what the guy was saying because of all the equipment and the medical equipment and the beeping, and he was giving his deathbed statement. That was very hard because I'd actually seen him the night it happened in the burn unit, and he was wrapped like a mummy. It looked like something from a soap opera, but it was real. How do I not have PTSD? You know, the only PTSD I think I have sometimes is to do with the radiation machine, the radiation chamber. Sometimes I'll hear beeping noises that sound like it, and I go to a very bad place in my head. I wouldn't necessarily call it PTSD, but not for my work. If if my work affected me, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did for so many years. I mean, I've been in morgues and oh, I bet. Your husband was a police chaplain. He saw some gruesome stuff. Oh, I bet. Yeah, most of the times when we had somebody that was unalived, you know, we came in after the fact. I've seen a couple really bad things that happened during bank robberies. Sometimes it's something gruesome, or sometimes it's almost comical because they still have the bullet holes like in the walls and in the curtains, and they're like, "Yeah, it happens, every month." You know? Uh, Thank you, Dawn. No, and I actually lived in Connecticut as a baby, Barbara. Did you ever hear about the disappearance of the mother of five in Connecticut about 5 years ago? Never found her body. No, but you know what? Here in Los Angeles, I worked for a company right around the time I was getting my PI license, and they, not my company, but their company, had a huge celebrity case that took place in Connecticut. And it's definitely somebody you would probably know of, but I can't talk about it here. You are a clinical social worker in Boston. Well, good for you, CMA. Wow. Now that would be tough. I interned at a funeral home my first year of college. After that, I said, nope, changed my major. Oh, yeah, I'd have a very hard time with that. It has had its dangerous moments. I had to interview an insurance claimant once, and he had a loaded shotgun at the table with us, and he threatened to use it if things didn't go his way. And I should have just said, well, okay, thank you for your time, sir. And I'm walking out the door, but I sat down and I interviewed him. I've had to interview bank robbers. I've had to interview murderers. A few times I had to go into LA County Jail. That's not fun. That's a horrible place to go. And in the men's jail. I took abnormal psychology to understand my family, Don, but it felt like a family reunion. And so I said, not today. Jamie James says, really, April, regarding what? I definitely think that my compassion for people would have made me flip. Hey, Micro. Or Mike Stro. Hubby saw right away. Oh, that's terrible. Sometimes help carry to the ambulance. Oh, then he's probably seeing a lot worse than I've seen. Barbara says, April saying goodnight. Phone is low battery. See you soon. I hope so, Barbara. Good night. My father knows three PIs in his lifetime. He's 80 now and never was talked about with me. I believe it was mostly for protection. You too, Barbara. Yeah, where are you coming in from, Maestro? Or Mike Stro? Hope I'm not butchering your username. Yeah, so here we are, Savannah Guthrie or Nancy Guthrie, day 81. And no viable suspects that we know of. But I'm sure there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with the FBI. But I'm not that impressed with the FBI either. But I never have been because of things that I've worked that they could have very easily solved and they just didn't have the knowledge. FBI agents are like Secret Service agents. They're in certain divisions for a certain amount of time, and it's very concentrated. Like, okay, this is your niche, and then there's somebody else that's in another niche. Whereas a PI, you have to be a jack of all trades, and you have to know a little bit of everything. Yeah, I know. You're in Toronto, Ontario. Well, welcome in. My dad was a naturalized Canadian, Maestro. Possibly CMA. He says Cash Patel is incompetent. Probably. I hope I am correct, and later this year or early next year, Nancy is found dazed and confused on a bench by a hiker. Wouldn't that be wonderful? With no memory of any of this. We can only wish. But I don't think that's the case, Tricia. The man in Florida was the unaliver. Thinking about it, his name was Brian, and hers Gabby Petito. Oh, I remember the Gabby Petito case. Happened out in, wasn't it Utah? And the police actually pulled the guy over and then they let them go. Ludicrous. And then he unalived her. Trisha, with no memory of any of this. Yeah, do you know how hard it would be if she were alive and she was found at her age and her health, and now she just had to try to return to a normal life? She wouldn't even be able to stay in that house, like her life would, if she were alive and she was successfully found, she would never be the same. With your experience, why would you bother to take out all of the cameras except the front porch camera? Makes absolutely 0 sense. That's a very good question. Now, they did take it, though. He did take it. But it was already recording when he walked up. He's got a bag full of tools, probably, but he had to use the plants. But when you get medications, they sometimes make you get 3 months worth at a time. Yeah, but they didn't take her medication with them. It was all found in the house. What was a red herring, Tricia? Dawn says none makes sense. That poor lady, alive or not, is out there and no one knows where she is. And the perp is still out there too. Awful. Exactly. And that's why I don't consider that Savannah is exactly safe right now. I don't think anybody would mess with Tommaso, but somebody would definitely mess with Savannah or her kids. My point is, so much of the things we know, we don't know. The camera, usually you buy more than one Ring camera. That's what I'm hearing, Dawn. Sounds like that whole neighborhood isn't safe. Yes, remember I said all along, this is a 500-piece puzzle, and we know only as the public, maybe, if we're lucky, 5 to 10% of it. So that's, a very small part of the puzzle. That's 25 to 50 pieces. Try to put a 500-piece puzzle together with only 25 to 50 pieces. There's so much we don't know. Tricia says, right, Don, Pete's sake, it's like prison release halfway neighborhood. Yeah. And it's a very expensive neighborhood. But there's some, bad people around there. And there are also some sus businesses around there. Without me naming businesses, there are some sus businesses around there. And it is 70 miles approximately north of the Mexican border. And there's a lot of a certain type of medication that's coming across that border into the United States at an alarming rate that's taking people out. Everybody knows somebody, at least somebody, that's been taken out by that particular medication. And it's coming out of Mexico into the United States. Jamie James says the desert is astoundingly vast, Tricia. So much could be planned and we would never know. Yeah, I was saying if we could just all take a flight together into Tucson on a sunny day, and we'd probably be shocked at what we would see the vastness of that desert out the plane window. Tricia, her direct neighbor on the left side, has made it publicly known that she did not like Nancy's political views, not enough to do her harm, maybe. Tricia says, right, Jamie, and it had to be someone local who knew all the hidey holes. I definitely think locals are involved, people that are familiar with Tucson. They may not be from Tucson, but, you know, they're in Tucson up to no good. Maybe somebody needed some cashola for something. If you were going to target somebody, you would target somebody that you knew had money or you knew that she was, related to somebody famous who had money. I do not. CMA, remember the cartoon called Nancy? No. There are very wicked people in this world, and I have made a living from investigating wicked people of this world, with the wicked and the crazy. Tucson is a very large melting pot, probably. And they would have to know their way around. Well, I think the place was being surveilled and intel was being gathered, weeks or months prior to the actual night of the deed. This whole thing is there's nothing about this that's a typical anything unless it was somebody targeting Savannah for money and it all went wrong. But kidnappers, they come in, they take their person, their hostage. They don't dick around for 41 minutes. Excuse my language, but they dicked around for at least 41 minutes. And we don't know that somebody wasn't already in the house because somebody came in through the back. We just know when front porch guy uh, interfered with that camera. And we know when she was carried out of that house, pushed, dragged, walked out of that house because the pacemaker, once it was 30 feet away from her devices, stopped syncing. But her heart was still beating at that point. But we don't know that somebody wasn't already there. We don't know that somebody wasn't already there when Tommaso brought her home. We don't even have proof that Tommaso brought her home. But I do believe that she was in the house because that's where her device was pacing with her devices. Unless somebody brought the devices back and put them on the nightstand. But did they change her clothes and put her in her pajamas? They don't think she was taken in her street clothes. They think she was taken out of her bed in the middle of the night. Trisha says, Don, I would think being that close to cartel money, drug smuggling, it takes a certain kind of mindset to thrive. Fifth inning. Shohei Ohtani on the mound in San Francisco, 0-0. Just checking. Yes, just about anyone can fit in. This could have been in plans for a year. Yes. And what's sad about this is this could be solved years from now. I hope not. I don't want to add this to the list of things that I had to worry about when I got my diagnosis in 2019. I thought, "Oh my god, I'm never going to know what happened to MH370. I'm never going to see an arrest be made in the John Benet Ramsey case." And now I've got to add this to my plate of cases that I lay awake in bed and I think about. And it's not about me, but this may never be solved, or it may be solved years later. In Savannah, can you imagine how long the last 81 days have been? She was getting ready the next day to get on a plane for Italy to go to the Olympics. And her whole life is turned upside down. Jamie James says, I'll be living in Kentucky in a week and a half. I pray her remains are found and the family will have closure. Me too. At least we'd get something with that. But then that could happen years from now. that somebody just stumbles across something. Yes, be careful in Kentucky. You have to be careful everywhere. Nowhere is safe, not even an expensive neighborhood like the Catalina foothills of Tucson. That's not even safe. Fly out there, April, and have the neighbors vetted. You know what? I briefly did have an Arizona PI license. It was a subcontractor who worked for me. It was like, oh, you should add, a couple other states and get licensed. And I started with Arizona, and I never had time to work there. And I had an insurance company in LA that's like, oh, we have an office there, but I don't know PIs in Arizona. It was the dumbest thing. It was just a waste of money. But it was a business deduction. I was too busy in California. Checked out micro or Micstro. I think Savannah gave her tickets away for the Olympics, from what I heard. Might have just been a rumor. Well, she was going there for work. Jamie James says, yes, ma'am, Trisha, here in Payson, Arizona, those substances are on the rise. Yes. And some of that may have to do with some of the businesses that are fronts for that type of trafficking. I mean, the guy, the front porch guy, he didn't look nervous in any way, like he's done things before. He's been there before. That takes a lot of balls to walk up to a house of a famous person's mom, and there's probably security everywhere, and there could even be infrared around the property. That's interesting, Jamie. April, we've seen some pretty shady businesses even in Scottsdale. Yeah, I wanted to see Scottsdale when I had a conference to go to in Phoenix a few years ago, probably around, I don't know, 2014, 2015. Seems more recent than it actually was, but I had a friend that lived there I wanted to see that lived in Mesa, and I was just, in for the meeting and out, and I drove. It was a beautiful drive, but it was a waste of my time, and I never got to see Scottsdale or see my friend. Sorry, I was just kind of stopping by, but it cracks me up you calling him front porch guy. Well, that's what they're calling him in the media. That's what he's known as, front porch guy. Just like, Tommaso was known as tomato. Nanos is referred to as bananos. That's what they're calling him in the media, front porch guy. Listen to all the people, whether it's Nancy Grace, Megan Kelly, who I don't really agree with her politics, but occasionally I watch her, Ashley Banfield. He's known as front porch guy. Brian Enton. I know because of a case that happened in Alaska in the early 70s that there is a very heavy mafia influence that moved into Tucson. Um, Prior to that, that came in from, I forget what state, it was somewhere in the Midwest, where there were certain families that had allegedly retired, but not really, because you never really get out of that business. And I was like, wow, Tucson, I would have never guessed that. but I don't suspect those people. Now, there's other countries that have organized crime that are in Tucson. Savannah was offered extra security and she turned it down. I don't know that, Trisha. Could be. I know that her mom's property wasn't secure enough. But if somebody really wants to get you, they're gonna get you. And if you watch the coyote video, I mentioned that there's been a couple of break-ins the last few evenings close to here, and one was a neighbor of Ryan Cassidy, David and Sean's little brother, the little cutie patootie one, who now looks like a very old Jack Cassidy. Looks like he's 80 years old, and he's probably younger than I am. I don't know. We're around the same age, I think, but that happened, and then one closer to me happened last night. Do I think that Al Roker's involved in the disappearance of Nancy? Are you kidding, Jason? Absolutely not. In fact, if you see my tribute video to my friend, you can see Al Roker in that. Do I know who Big Chungus is? No, I do not, Joshua. Yeah, Ryan Cassidy he's a carbon spitting image of Jack Cassidy had Jack Cassidy lived. Jack Cassidy died in his early 40s in an apartment fire in West Hollywood, but had he lived, um, he would look exactly in his elder age as his son Ryan looks now. Of course, Trisha. We'll give Jason the credit. I wouldn't call that tip into the FBI, though, Jason. If Al ends up being involved, we will remember you said it first. Ryan is the baby Cassidy, yes. And 2 houses down from him, there was a 2 masked men broke into a house. And I had gone out. I'm in the next neighborhood, but I had gone out to take out the trash, and I just felt this weird vibe while I was in my driveway, and something just told me to walk into the house a little quicker. And I usually feel very safe in my driveway, even late at night. But something told me, just get inside and lock the door. And right after that, a bunch of choppers came and police presence, not at my place, but in the next neighborhood over. And they named the address, and I looked it up. I'm like, oh, that's near Ryan's place. And no, I don't know him. Was David Cassidy's adopted mother Shirley Jones from the Partridge Family? No. Shirley Jones was David Cassidy's stepmother. David was born in New Jersey, and his mother was Evelyn. I can't think of her last name right now, but um, Shirley was Jack Cassidy's wife later on. Trisha, it's always the ones you wouldn't even consider, Dawn. Jamie James, I'm heading out, everyone. Still packing and exhausted. Thank you for the privilege of mod for a bit, April. You're welcome. Hope I helped. Yes, you did. As soon as we have something more to report, I'll go live. But I'm just kind of playing it by ear, the schedule. Trisha, every time a friend or neighbor gets interviewed, they're always so surprised that person would never do this or that. Yes, Shirley was in the Partridge Family. And she even sang backup on some of the Partridge Family albums, even though the Partridge Family was not a real music group. They were just a television show. Yeah, but her son, he was a cutie back in the day, the youngest. We'll see. I try to have it down to just a few. But thanks for letting me know, Trisha, because if you just disappear, and you didn't tell me that, I'd be worried that, like, are you okay? Hi, Jane. Yeah, I really appreciate everything, Trisha. You've helped me so much. Oh, thank you. Yeah, if I don't go on the air for one day, I get all these messages like, "Are you going on? Is everything okay? Are you still alive?" I'm just, I'm not going to be able to go on like every day, but let me encourage everybody that's here to hit that thumbs up and please watch some of the long form content because I still haven't cracked that YouTube algorithm yet. And it's really going to determine the fate of this channel if I don't start getting some of that up. Yes, Jay, David was the eldest son of Jack Cassidy, but he was not Shirley Jones's son. Nope. Her sons are Patrick, Sean, and Ryan. And I've seen Shirley quite a few times at Hollywood shows. I've never talked to her, but she always looked great, even when she was in her 80s. I saw her earlier. But you know what? I'm going to go see what's left of this ball game. We're already in the sixth inning. Thank you for coming in. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. Oh, thank you, by the way, for the people that sent the 4 super chats. It says my total at the top is 11.98. Well, that's YouTube's total, but I always like to check that. And oh, just a reminder, I do have my links in the homepage, my homepage of my channel. Go to video description. You can see all my links, especially if you just, have an inkling to buy something off of eBay or you would like to sign up for Whatnot and get 15 free dollars. You can buy something with their $15. It's a gift if you are not already signed up. And no need to donate, but if you are interested in buying something off the Amazon wish list, go check it out. And thank you, Trisha, for suggesting that. I've already had 3 purchases from there. I'll see you guys on the next chat. Thanks for coming.